Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS preview video for the 2021 Genesis Invitational. Now, what I cover in these videos, I like to just basically go over tournament information, looking at the field total, cut information, weather forecast, who's withdrawn so far, that kind of stuff, and then kind of look into the tournament fact sheets, how the superintendent is, putting together this tournament, how the golf course is going to play, and then look at target scores and past results. Then I like to get into the historical salaries, bucket system, course history, and recent form. So you can find all that stuff in the timestamps in the description below, or if you hover over the progress bar, they're cut into segments. They'll show you what each segment is by hovering over it. So you can find it there. Let's go ahead and get into really the tournament fact sheets, but I want to give you like a little overview here of the tournament. So it is an invitational, which means there are specific criteria that is required to actually be invited to this tournament. I don't know exactly every single, criterion that there is, but you can go ahead to the PGA Tour and find it there. They do a really good job of explaining that. But it's not an open, so there's no qualifying for this tournament. There's only one golf course being played, which is great. It's being played at the Riviera Country Club. We've actually been kind of lucky this year because some tournaments have 3 course rotations that were turned into 2 because of COVID and the fact there are no pro-ams with them. So it made it a little easier. We haven't had to deal with a 54-hole cut. We're not going to deal with that here either. It'll be a cut after 36 holes, and it's top 65 in ties. So it's kind of a basic tournament, but we have less golfers here. Again, 120 golfers are in this field, meaning it's going to be a little easier for basically all of us to get 6 to 6 through the cut. So it really matters who you choose up at the top, who you're going to anchor your lineups around. So keep that in mind. I have not heard of any withdrawals yet, but that could change, and I will definitely give you guys an update during the strategy video if that does happen. But other than that, that's basically it for the tournament information. Let's go ahead and look at the weather forecast. So I have the Pacific Palisades up. That's where this tournament is being played. And Thursday through Sunday, it's basically perfect weather. Now, we want to be looking at, wind. That is the most important thing for a golfer, because I think it's like roughly 1 mile an hour equals 1 yard. I think I've heard some people say 1 mile an hour is 2 yards. I personally haven't, felt that, but there are certain golfers that have, basically their own conversion ratio. And obviously, when you get higher winds, it makes calculating more difficult. It also makes balance harder to achieve through the golf swing. The wind that we see here, 10 miles an hour, is really nothing. I think most golfers are going to be able to navigate through that. So I feel like wind-wise, there's not going to be a defense to this golf course. Also, it is sunny and nearly 70 degrees every single day, which is fantastic weather to golf in. I know some of you southern guys or even desert rats love it around 90 degrees. Up here in Minnesota, 70 degrees is wonderful. It's perfect. So I guess, some of the golfers might not think that that's perfect, but hey, it's completely sunny, very little wind. It's going to be fantastic for them. So I don't see, the wind providing any kind of defense to this tournament. And we'll get into that a little bit later with the target score, because I feel like it's going to be lower than what we've typically seen. Let's go ahead and look at the tournament fact sheets. Basically, what I like to do here, obviously you can see the golf course that it's being played at, the location, it's in California. Pacific Palisades, really close to Los Angeles, so keep that in mind if you guys are wondering where that is. It's a par 71 golf course, 35 on the front, 36 on the back, 3,200 yards, pretty standard, honestly. I'm not sure what exactly the average yardage is for a par 71 on tour, but we've seen, I think Pebble was like 7,100 yards. I think that was a par 71. So obviously, you know, 200 yards shorter. If you divide it by 18, it's not really that big of a deal, but it's like an extra club basically, or a half club on every single hole. But either way, I don't find the distance at this golf course to be all that, you know, challenging or anything like that. So it's pretty benign. Now, last week we had 3,500 square feet greens. Again, it was a shorter golf course. We have 7,500 square feet. So it's kind of ranging on the large side of green, at least square footage. Bunkers, we have 58. We have 0 water hazards. So no worries about Jordan Spieth going in the water, spraying the ball all over the place. This is going to make this is going to invite the entire field to do well at this golf course. So I'm not concerned about, you know, golfers who spray the golf ball whatsoever here. I also believe the trees, it's not very tree lined, not as penal as most golf courses. I'll actually do a course breakdown in the strategy video tomorrow. I'm not going to do it in this video. We'll just keep it to strategy videos. So we'll actually get to see, I'll get to talk more about, you know, what you're going to see at this golf course. But yeah, I think the golf course is going to lend itself to everybody. It's not going to be for specific types of players. The main important thing I like to talk about when it comes to the golf course setup is the grass type. You know, grass type, in my opinion, is very important. I'm a competitive golfer. Playing on certain grasses matters. Bermuda, for me, that's my nemesis. I can't putt on Bermuda greens. I haven't figured them out yet. Poana, it's really luck of the draw. It depends on how the golf course superintendents are, you know, regulating the growth on them. You know, obviously you've heard of the plinko, that kind of stuff. Really, they're not going to see that on tour unless, you know, growth conditions are just crazy and they haven't put any kind of growth retardant on any of it. But either way, Poana greens, definitely look at your strokes gained putting Poana, your average finishes on Poana. That's going to matter. You see Bermuda on the tees, don't look at that. Not a huge deal. Kikuyu grass and the fairways and the rough. Now, if you want to look at approach stats and around the green, I'm not going to say that's silly whatsoever. I think that's actually very smart to do. Kikuyu grass is it kind of lends itself to, like, the golf ball is going to sit on a tee basically when it lands in the rough, or not in the rough, but in the fairway. You know, like some golf balls just lay flat, or not lay flat, but they kind of bury when they land. On Kikuyu, not so much. I can't remember how strong a blade of grass is for Kikuyu, but either way, I don't want to get too far into that, but I do think it might benefit to look at approach stats or around the green stats. The architect here, George Thomas, 1927. It's been renovated several times by Tom Fazio, Ben Crenshaw, and Bill Corr. You can see Crenshaw and Corr golf courses on tour, and you can also see Tom Fazio golf courses on tour. I don't know what they've renovated at this golf course, so if you guys can dig that information up and see, it might benefit to look at one of these guys, you know, any of the other golf courses they have been an architect for on tour. Other than that, you might be grasping at straws. Might not be that huge of a deal. But yeah, you can find all this information, gcsaa.org. You know, scroll to the bottom, you'll see tournament fact sheets there. Let's go ahead and dive into the spreadsheet. Now, I want to talk about target score here. You know, we saw the weather was going to be benign. You know, the golf course is not really set up. It's not really set up super difficult, but it is kind of a challenging golf course. When you look at, you know, past results, we see 11 under in 2020, 14 under in 2019, 12 under in 2018. Basically, you see a lot of scores between that 11 under and 15 under mark. It was like extremely windy in 2015. Like the weather was really bad. That's why we see a higher score of -6. Now, DJ shot 17 under here in 2017, ran away with a thing. The second place guy was 12 under, two of them. So like firepower can obviously score really low here. Now, I think because of the weather and how nice it looks, how almost perfect it looks, and the fact that there are no fans. We've seen this now with, you know, kind of quote unquote fanless tournaments. Scores have been lower. And I think a lot of it has to do, and I think even like Justin Thomas has talked about this, the fact there's no pressure on Sundays. Like, golfers just go and shoot numbers now. You know, there's no angst, no jitteriness, I guess. There still is. I mean, Daniel Berger was just talking about it at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. But either way, you know, with the lack of fans, there's not that added pressure. What I'm trying to get at is I think the target score is going to be 15 to 17 under. I think someone is going to get there kind of easily, honestly. I don't want to go any further than that. I could extend it to 18 again like I did for the AT&T Pebble Beach, but I think it's going to sit somewhere in between that 15 and 17 under mark. So that's what I think with target score. The other thing I want to provide sitting here is looking at everyone that's at the top, you know, the winner of this tournament. I originally thought this was kind of a shot shapers golf course. There are a lot of dog legs with trees, though, that are kind of leafless. You know, I don't know if the trees there kind of go in a, I don't know what you want to call it, like a hibernation, kind of like what they do here in Minnesota where the leaves fall off the trees. But we're going to see a lot of like, man, I can't even remember what they're called, but like petrified forest type looking trees. At least that's what it looks like to me. It's probably not what it is, but either way, I don't think the trees are going to be a huge obstacle here, but I do believe, and I'm not even saying, I'm trying to remember now. One of the, when Cantlay was kind of, you know, right behind Bubba in 2018, I do remember, so there are some trees that don't have leaves, but most of the trees there do have leaves, now that I remember, and there are tight driving holes. So I'm going to kind of take back what I was just getting at. Again, the course breakdown is going to be tomorrow. But either way, I think this course lends itself to shot shapers. I do believe what I wrote in the notes at one point in time was that a left to right ball flight is required. And obviously I have it right here saying it's not required because I think you hear from some of the top guys in the industry saying, you know, lefties do really well at this golf course. You know, any lefty that's won the Masters has won this tournament, you know, several times. And they think like being a lefty means there's a certain shot shape that goes with it. Obviously I have left to right ball flight, but you know, I see a lot of draw golfers here at the top of the leaderboard. So I think it's still going to lend itself to any shot shape. I don't think it's going to really matter. But again, we'll talk about that tomorrow in the strategy video. I guess I didn't have to bring that up here after all. But either way, let's go ahead, get into the historical salaries. Now, I bring this up. This is always the next piece involved because it's where we're going to start with our lineups, right? There are obviously a lot of good golfers at the top of the leaderboard. I know I have not shown you that yet. In this video, but that's kind of the purpose. I just want to cover the, you know, general information of this tournament, what we typically see, not who we typically see. So I'm going to talk about salaries, we'll talk about buckets, and then we'll get into the players basically. But either way, we have to start, you know, we have to figure out what type of approach we want to take when constructing our lineups. And that starts obviously with salary. Do we play a 10K and above golfer or do we make a more balanced lineup? Well, right away, looking at this, you can see the top 10 here for the last 3 years, 2020, 2019, 2018. And you can see all the salaries that are involved. Again, no player names there, just salaries. And you can see the winner hasn't even sniffed the 10K range. But if you look every single year, or I don't know, yeah, every single year, you're going to see a 10K and above golfer. Now, obviously in 2018, it's not until 9th place. I mean, you see 2 golfers there that are 10K and above, but they're still inside the top 10. I do want to point that out because when we look at kind of the summary information over here, you know, 8 golfers are 10K and above inside the top 10. That makes up 53% of all 10K golfers at this tournament. There have been a total of 15, and 8 of them have found their way inside the top 10. That's pretty remarkable. It's one of the higher percentages. I think I have the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am still up. And when we look here, we only see 4. Same amount, 15 of them, but we only see 4 inside the top 10. So part of the reason that we see more 10K golfers inside the top 10 is primarily because this is a tournament, like a kind of an elite status type of tournament. I believe now it's kind of like Tiger has his stamp on it. You shake Tiger's hand at the end of the tournament. So this is going to be his memorial, basically, or his Arnold Palmer Invitational, where obviously those two legends, I mean, rest in peace, Arnold Palmer, but like for Jack, he will always be out on hole 18 shaking the winner's hand at the memorial. This is going to be Tiger's event. Tiger will be here shaking the winner's hand. So this is going to be a big deal for, you know, obviously years to come, but it already has been kind of a big deal. It was already a sought after tournament. So the 10K golfers, I mean, actually, let me just go ahead and show you who is in the 10K. Excuse my voice. I have no idea why it's so raspy or anything like that, but we have Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau. They are your number 1, 3, 7, and 2 golfer in the world. We also have the 4th golfer in the world with Xander, the 6th golfer in Morikawa, and the 8th golfer in Patrick Cantlay. But you can obviously see we're only missing a few golfers, or a couple golfers. I think we're missing Webb. I don't remember exactly what rank he is in the world, maybe 5th. And then Patrick Reed, which I think is 9th in the world. So most of our top 10 golfers are here at this field. And, you know, 5 of them are 10K and above. So 10K and above, we're probably going to see one of them inside the top 10, if not 2 or maybe 3. And if that's the case, you have to start your lineups with a 10K golfer. Have to. Looking at the rest of the summary here, though, the highest, you know, price bucket is the 7 to 8K range. And this was kind of similar at Pebble. You know, Pebble had 16 golfers in that 7K range, very few in the 6K range. You know, nearly 50% fell in that 7 to 8K bucket. And then if you look down here, 11.43% of all 7K golfers found themselves inside the top 10. Obviously, these buckets get a little bit larger down here, the number of golfers in them, but having an 11.43 at AT&T Pebble Beach, you knew you needed a 7K golfer. When we look here at the Genesis Invitational, the 7 and 6 are very close to each other. Now, I would say you do need a 7K golfer, obviously. We've seen 2 winners in the 7K range, but don't be afraid to pick from the 6K range. You know, this kind of points to a more stars and scrub type of makeup for your lineups. And you can obviously see the totals of the price buckets down here and the percentage of them being inside the top 10. And it pretty much tiers down perfectly. You know, your higher percentages at the 10K and above. 9 and 10 is a little bit, is the next highest. 8 to 9 next. It's almost perfect in how it tiers out. So it's a very balanced lineup. So I think a 10K, maybe slide down to the 9K, pick someone from the 8, 2 from the 7, 1 from the 6. I think that, you know, the general, I feel like that's kind of the general makeup of a lineup. I think that's probably preferred here. And we can also validate that with the optimal lineups when we look at those. So let's go ahead and do that right now. The optimal lineup in 2018 apparently was 48,400. I don't even have any of the players marked. But obviously, if we look at the top 10 or even just the top 6, because that's kind of where it comes to, right? They're most likely going to be the golfers you want to choose from. Now, what I have here is 45,600. If I highlight all 6 of these golfers right here, that equals 45.6. If we want to make kind of a, what do you want to call it? A realistic lineup, we're going to have to grab someone from the 10K range, basically. And probably just those top 4, 9, and a 10. Nope, that's over. 8 and a 10. That's over by $100. Yeah, yeah, I guess there's no real easy way to get there. I mean, this is 49,200 grabbing JT, an 8K, and a bunch of guys from the 7K range. We actually, I mean, we do see a 6K range here at 9th place. So if I were to go ahead and do this and that, no, not even close. Not even close. What am I doing? No. So here, no 6K range was in the optimal lineup. Going to 2019, we do have an 11K guy up here. I mean, the optimal lineup here was 48,900. And we had 7-2, 11, 7-4, 8-9, 7-9, and 6-5. So a 6K golfer was here in this price range, or in this optimal lineup, which, again, I think we're basically going to have to create that type of lineup, I feel like, in order to take down a GPP here at this tournament. In 2020, your optimal lineup was 9,000, 7-8, 2 guys in the 6K range, another guy in the 9-3, and then a 7-9. That used up 46,700. That's difficult to do. What I would actually say is we probably have to get rid of a 6K golfer. Can't do 11-6. Can we do 10? Can't do 10. I'm looking for someone that's 9,300 or cheaper. So maybe we don't do Bryson. Can we go here and... Yeah, this is difficult. I don't know if we can really get there. I mean, 11-6, that's pretty expensive. That's 49,000, so that's really close. I mean, are we ever going to use a 6K golfer, though? Like a straight-up 6K golfer? You know, maybe we do something like this. 6,300? That's 49,300. Yeah, I mean, now we're trying to get cute, but you can see what it's going to take for some of these optimal lineups. Obviously, I just pointed out that 2 of the optimal lineups over the last couple of years did not have a 10K golfer in them. So maybe I have to eat my words and say that's not how we want to create our lineups. But let's move on and get into the bucket system. Now, if you were in the strategy video for the last tournament, I actually brought up not only the last year and last week buckets, but I also introduced the course history and recent form buckets. And that's actually, we will be talking about that here as well. And I'm going to do this as quick as I possibly can. I don't want to stay too long here. Just want to give a general oversight of what the buckets mean. So I like to analyze basically finishing positions from last year's tournament and the tournaments that preceded each of those tournaments. So basically what I mean is, for this year, Genesis Invitational is now. I want to look at last year's Genesis Invitational finishing positions, as well as last week's. So the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am that just happened, you know, obviously like 4 days ago. Well, it concluded yesterday. So that's what I like to do. I like to, you know, look at both of those, look at everybody inside the top 10 and try to figure out, is there a trend as to why they do well? And part of the reason is I'm a competitive golfer. I'm looking at my most recent results. And obviously your most recent result is the last tournament you played in. So that's going to be last week's. And have I done well at this tournament? So I'm looking at last week's. What I end up doing is I capture all of the top 10 results from 2013 and on, you know, 2013 to present day. And I throw them in these ranges, 1 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, and see what the frequency is. And then I rank them. That's essentially it. So the lower the score you see, you know, like 1 to 20 is the last year bucket 1 score. And the coloring should actually be different, but I forgot to do that, obviously. And you can see the total here is 21. Now, I highlighted these colors a little bit differently because I've added new pieces of information just to help us out. When we look at the min and max of these, this is going to be what we're going to use in the optimizer tomorrow. So I don't really care to talk about it now. You can look at the top 10%. So a lot like the salary. This is comparing each of these ranges to each other and seeing what is the percentage that shows up inside the top 10. So obviously the higher the number, the better. And then when we look at field percentage, this is actually taking in the totals, which I have down here. What we see every single year totaled up and then divided by how many top 10 finishes there are. So when we see a high number like 15, 14, 13, that gives you a pretty good indicator of how successful that bucket is. Long story short, the numbers that you see on here, like the rankings, this is the bucket designation number I give them. So if we're looking at my spreadsheet, you can see over in this column, your last year one, your last week one. And that's what we'll get into for our best plays, basically. Now, the best way I can actually tell you for those that don't really want to, follow along with the bucket system, you want to find golfers. I'm going to tell you what the buckets are. The number one bucket is golfers who top 20 this tournament the year before. So the direct tournament, I shouldn't say direct. This tournament last year, top 10 finish or top 20 finishes. That is your number one bucket. Your number two bucket, golfers who did not play last year. So when you're making your lineups out, you can see, basically just target golfers who top 20 last year, target golfers who did not play. Your third bucket are golfers in that 20 to 40 range. So really it's I had heard something earlier saying course history matters. Yes, course history at this tournament matters. Finishing positions at this tournament matter. Looking at last year's finishing positions matter. When we look at the last week bucket, obviously these are also indicated by the abbreviation, for each of the tables, in case you didn't know that. Your number one bucket for last week, golfers who didn't play. So we would really want to be targeting golfers who did not play last week. Your second bucket's actually tied with your third, and it's golfers who top 20 last week, as well as golfers who missed the cut. And not too far behind are golfers who finished in that 20 to 40 range. So those are kind of the four buckets you want to stick to, and this is pretty common throughout every single tournament. We see these numbers almost exactly the same. Your did not plays are massively more frequent inside the top 10 than any of the other ranges, but you can obviously see in the percentage, the field percentage, 8.05 is pretty low considering there were 36 instances this has happened since 2013. And a lot of the reasoning comes from looking at how many golfers fall in those buckets. This is a total for every single year. So in 2020, there were 58 golfers who did not play the week before this tournament. And of those 58, 7, or what we're looking at, 20? 5 finished inside the top 10. So obviously, totaling all of these out, totaling all of these, dividing it into itself, 8.05%, not very high, but looking at the top 10, it makes up nearly 50% of top 10 golfers. So what I'm trying to tell you and what the stats are telling you is this is going to be a hard one to choose from, most likely, because the percentage is really small. Now, there are good golfers, especially at the top, the top tier. Actually, let's go ahead and get into the spreadsheet and look at it. I do want to do it this way. So if I were to sort by your last year one golfers, actually, let me go sort here and then sort last year one. We can already see like DJ, Rory, John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, like all of these golfers, 9K and above, kind of your favorite golfers, are all last year one and last week one. Again, we want to target golfers like this. Golfers who have either the last year one score or the last week one score. So you can already see a bunch of really good golfers there. Now, if you wanted to drop down a little bit, you've got Russell Henley, Taylor Gooch, Matt Kuchar, Wyndham Clark, KH Lee. He just did well not too long ago, but I'm probably going to stay away from that. Then obviously, we did have golfers who played last week. And of the golfers that, last year top 20 this tournament, we actually have only 3 golfers who top 20 this or top 20 the tournament the week before. So that would be this bucket combination here. That is Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Ches Reavie. So if you're not on Patrick Cantlay and you think this is a good bucket combination to choose from, hey, go with it. I think it's pretty smart. Let's look at our top. I mean, now I knew I was surprised by what that color was. So that would, the bucket 1 for last year is small because obviously the maximum we're going to see is top 20 in ties. And it's usually going to be around 20 people. Especially, I mean, sometimes they don't come back to this tournament, so we'll have less, but either way, it's around 20. Our last year bucket 2 is kind of a little bit larger. We have a total of 37 golfers in this field that are last year 2s. And your top salary guy is Victor Hovland, and then it goes to Gary Woodland, and then it's a bunch of 6K golfers. Oh man, I should have done it this way first. Let's just go by salary. I do want to go there. Okay, so actually your last year bucket 2 is headed by Daniel Berger, and then Victor Hovland, Will Zalatoris. The majority, so like there's 47 in this, or 37 in this group, there are only 10 that are above 7K. And really, there are only 3 that are 8K and above. So this is one of those buckets. Again, last year bucket 2s are those that did not play. You can see that in this column here. They did not play last year. So we're going to see a lot of 6K golfers here. Your last year bucket 3s are golfers who finish in that 20 to 40 range. We see Xander, Colin Morikawa, Scheffler, Ortiz, a lot of good golfers here. Going to our last year 4s, JT, Bubba Watson, Joaquin Niemann, Cameron Smith, Matthew Wolff, Jason Kokrak. Now, if I were to go back to the notes or back to the bucket page and just take a look at last year 4s, I do this min and max thing for top 10s. Your maximum is 3. It's only happened twice. We see ones, this happened once or twice, on average. So when we're looking at this, if you're creating lineups, my advice to you is either you have to have strong conviction in saying, I want to play JT and say Joaquin Niemann. But if that's the case, you obviously saw kind of histories on the side that only 1 or 2 of these last year 4s are going to finish inside the top 10. So I would not create 3 lineups, or not 3 lineups. I wouldn't create a lineup with 3 of these guys in it. That's kind of how the bucket system works. It helps you determine how to construct your lineups. Looking down here at last year 5s, Brooks Koepka, Tony Finau, Jordan Spieth, Mark Leishman. This is a terrible bucket. Like if we go to the last year 5s, I'm so programmed to hit the notes tab down here. If we look at last year 5s, again, we see 1, maybe 2, 2 guys finish inside the top 10 in any given year. So the maximum is 2. The minimum is 0. I guess if I were to average that out, it ends up being 1 on the button. Sometimes 0 happens. Are you confident playing any of these 4 golfers, or really any of these 3? But I know Abraham Answer's also a golfer that a lot of people like. Are you confident playing them? I wouldn't be, honestly. And then there are only 2 golfers that are in that last year 6 bucket. So not really going to talk about them. You can just go ahead and kind of skip them. Now, the last week bucket is pretty large. You have 59 golfers in there. So almost half of the field is in there. And your top guys, I mean, last year, or the last week 1 bucket, one of the better buckets to choose from, you have a lot of your top guys in here. You even have a Brooks Koepka. So if they do have a bad last year bucket score, having a good last week bucket score can mitigate that. Brooks or Tony, hey, they're in play. Now, looking at, your min maxes for your last week 1s, it's pretty high. 3. 3 for your minimum, 7 for your maximum. So you could create a lineup with all last week 1s. I don't know if it's really that smart to do, but you certainly can. And we have a majority of our golfers from 8K and above, like 19 of them are last week ones. If we go ahead and just open this up to everybody that's 8K and above, 24 total. So 18 out of 24 are last week ones. We're more likely going to see last week ones inside the top 10. I mean, it's your favorites are up there. That's because they didn't play the week before. Maybe that's a reason why you don't play someone like Patrick Cantlay, because he played last week. Obviously, if you had, the last week one bucket is the more important bucket. This is probably why you would choose, like a DJ, any of these guys over a Patrick Cantlay. But if you are going to choose Patrick Cantlay, at 9,600, you might have to dig down here for some of the cheaper guys that are last week ones. I mean, that's just one way to do it. I don't think it's really, it matters all that much who you decide to go with. Just have convictions in doing it. Now, last year, 2 buckets. Those are golfers who top 20 the week before. Obviously, this bucket's going to be pretty small. We only have 16 golfers in it. It's led by Patrick Cantlay, Daniel Berger, Jordan Spieth, Max Homa, and then a bunch of other guys here that are kind of low price. So really, if you can think of, you want to play a DJ or a Rory who has a last week bucket score, who have a last week bucket score of 1, maybe picking some of these, mid-price guys, not a terrible option. Looking at our last week 3s, we actually have James Hahn, Ricky Fowler, or Siwoo Kim's actually there. A lot of kind of middling guys. Ricky Fowler being $7,500 is kind of weird to see. But being a 2-3, I mean, it's not a terrible bucket score. A 5-3 isn't very good, like for Alex Noren or even JB Holmes. So if you were really interested in JB Holmes, maybe not a good time to play him. But yeah, you see a couple other 6K golfers down here that aren't going to be terrible picks. Here's an interesting note. I haven't talked about the bucket combinations. I don't know if I want to, because it's just kind of a noisy piece to go by, but 6-3s do show up quite a bit. And this is actually housed here in my notes page. I do keep track of all the bucket combinations, and for whatever reason, 6-3s, they are your 5th best bucket combination, and we only have one of them. Obviously, that was Tyler Duncan. So maybe a reason to play him. I mean, I'm not gonna shy away from it. 6K on the button. Hey, having 1 to 5 lineups out of 100 having Tyler Duncan in them, that's not gonna hurt you. But then we see Sam Burns down here. I don't know. Maybe there's some guys here. I'm going to scroll through I don't have to scroll too far because we're at the end. Will Zalatoris is down here. Yeah, so last week buckets, when the number gets higher on both sides, like a 4-4, not a good time to play those types of golfers. So that is kind of the bucket system in a wrap for last week. We're going to talk about course history and recent form. And we'll actually go through that a little bit faster. But this is the bucket combinations for your top 5, your top 10. What we were just looking at, your 2-1s show up inside the top 10 far more than any other bucket. But really close is the 1-1s. They actually show up inside the top 5 more often. So if you needed more conviction to play someone like Dustin Johnson or Rory McIlroy, this would be it. 17% of top 5s are 1-1s. And we see a ton of 1-1s at the top of the salary leaderboard. So take that as you will. Now, the other piece of the bucket system, looking at course history and recent form. So again, highlighted here, course history, recent form. I'm not going to go as detailed as I just did with the last week. This is just more for general use. Like I don't actually talk about the actual combinations of any of these. I just look at the ranges and see, okay, makes sense. What I've found out is mostly these all turn out to be pretty equal. If you thought you wanted to, for course history, load up with all your guys that are, have a course history between 1 and 20, it kind of shows that it's pretty volatile. Like, it's not your most consistent bucket. The max is 4, total is 12. It's actually the third best bucket. Now, it's, again, these scores are very close to each other. So make sure you mix it up a little bit. You know, find some course history guys. You know, your number one bucket is between the 20 and 40 range. And this is just course history going back to 2014. Yeah, 2015 is what I have it going back to. And that's because I don't want to pull anything from 2014 because it's only using 1 year of data. I only go back to 2013 with my data. So I think that's a little weird. Doesn't give a lot of, you know, actual rounds of golf that these guys had played at this tournament. So I don't want to use something that far back. So 2015 it goes back to. But yeah, your number one bucket for course history, golfers in that 20 to 40 range. So it's still good. Your second one is that 40 to 60. Your third one's 1 to 20. And your fourth is 60 to 80. Now, for recent form, your number one bucket is actually the 40 to 60 range, which is crazy. 33% of top 10 golfers are in that 40 to 60 range. And if we were to actually look of what that looks like, 40 to 60 lies right in here. I can't really do it by salary, but you know, in the strategy video tomorrow when we talk about this, it's going to be something interesting to talk about. Matthew Wolff falls in this in this bucket. Brooks Koepka falls in this bucket. Bubba Watson, Scotty Scheffler, Russell Henley. So some notable golfers in that bucket. And again, it is our highest ranked bucket for recent form. Our second one is that 20 to 40 range. We're going to find probably a little bit better golfers here. 20 to 40 starts or ends with Jason Kokrak, begins with Carlos Ortiz. So you have Max Homa, Brendan Steele, Daniel Berger, Will Zalatoris, Jordan Spieth. Another good reason to play Jordan Spieth. But yeah, Hideki Matsuyama is even in here. Now, we do have a lot of good golfers, you know, in that 1 to 20 range. We have 13 to be exact. Now, I do the same type of, you know, analysis looking at top 10 and then the field percentage. 20% of course history bucket 3 golfers. I know that's a weird thing to say, but the third bucket for course history, the third best bucket, 20% of them finished inside the top 10. So that's pretty good. And I mean, we have a total of 62 on average. There are 10. We have 13 at this tournament. So it's a little bit more than we typically would see. I wonder why this is actually off. I'm really confused why that's off. Oh, I'm looking at course history. Stupid me. Recent form. Here we go. 66 total, on average 9.88. We have 13 of them. So we're on the higher end. Chances are we're going to see more of them inside the top 10 this week. So I wouldn't shy away from that bucket. I know it's the 4th ranked bucket, but seriously, we have more in the field than we typically see on average. That's going to lend itself to finding more inside the top 10. And actually, that's a really good point I forgot to make. So one thing I've realized with COVID is that these buckets change. How many are actually in them? You know, that's why I included this average field, just to see what the average is and then compare it to what the year is. So in 2021, we have 20 golfers here that finished top 20 here last year. On average, that's 19.14. Pretty standard, makes sense. As we look through this, what one kind of pops out? It would be this one, 37 on average. There's also kind of a reason to this too. In 2019 or 2020, the tournament changed from I think 138 or 140 golfers down to 121. So obviously it changed a little bit. Yeah, what do we have? 137, 145, 120, 120. So yeah, it kind of changed a little bit. But this is an invitational, so thankfully we're kind of back to normalcy. So I know I was kind of going down the route of saying, oh, look, this changed. But then what I remembered is actually we're back to being normal. The real big difference to me, though, is from last week. We have more golfers, or we have less golfers who missed the cut the week prior. We have more golfers in that 20 to 40 range than we typically see. And that's kind of the difference in the COVID changes. But last week, we saw a considerable amount to that full field event. You know, I think it was like there was a change of 30 between two ranges. One had more, like 30 more, one had 30 less. And that was primarily because of there was no Korn Ferry graduation. So you can kind of see the same thing here. We don't really see anything that sticks out too much other than the did not play recent form. So basically we just see a bunch of golfers who have played within the last 7 weeks. So therefore we don't see zero here, or I shouldn't say zero, but see more golfers here. More golfers, you know, that have better recent form. We already went over that. I guess I don't have to, you know, beat a dead horse here. We can just go ahead and move on with the rest of the analysis. But yeah, those were the course history and recent form ranges. That is just for your information. So when you are creating your players, obviously write it down, you know, your min maxes, that kind of thing for course history, recent form. And that way, you know, it helps you either start with your lineups or really narrow down your player pool, basically. But I do want to talk about course history and recent form. Try to do this as quick as possible. We're going to just look at golfers who are playing this year. Your top end guy for average is Rory McIlroy. A fifth and a fourth, 220s, so nothing but top 20 finishes here. 12.25, that's pretty good, and especially at his price. Same with Jon Rahm. I mean, you can see the top guys. Here are the notable guys. McIlroy, Scott, Rahm, Schauffele, Dustin Johnson. I mean, Dustin Johnson's played here every single year. 2013, he missed the cut. If I take out this 2013, his average goes to 6.29. So it's crazy good. Carlos Ortiz shows up here. He's played this tournament 4 times. Hideki Matsuyama has a ton of top 10 finishes. Patrick Cantlay is up here as well. Basically, what I want to talk about is top 10s. So your best, or the most top 10s here, DJ. That's pretty much a given. Adam Scott has 2 less, but he's also played 2 less tournaments since 2013. Matsuyama comes next, as does Bubba Watson. So, you know, kind of see a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of the same, but, you know, obviously their averages were good. We talked about them with their course history averages. Obviously, they're going to show inside the top 10 quite a bit. Rory McIlroy shows up there as well. Interestingly enough, Sung Kang is up there as well. So that's an interesting player. Maybe it's worth a play. I mean, he hasn't missed a cut yet. He has 100% cut made percentage. Jordan Spieth. I don't need to talk about everyone, but you can see them all on the screen right now. Looking at cut made percentage, let's go ahead and get rid of the golfers who have not played this and take a look. Adam Scott, 100% cut made percentage. No worse finish than 53rd. That's kind of not a very good finish, but still 53rd, not terrible. Has not missed a cut. Neither has Rory McIlroy or Jon Rahm or Xander Schauffele. I mean, you can see all the guys here that have not missed a cut. Maybe the best way to look at this is from here. So I have the cut made percentage right here for golfers and their prices. So if you just follow this column here and look at all your top guys, you know, on the salary leaderboard, you can find it all right here. Now let's go ahead and talk about recent form. I do house that here on the recent form tab. If we go ahead and take a look at our top salary guys, most of them have fantastic recent form. Again, they fall into that recent form bucket 3, I believe. But there are more here than we typically see, so we're probably going to see more of them inside the top 10. And that's kind of a no-brainer. These guys are good. Like, I would love if that, that information was useful if they weren't top-end golfers, but here we are. That's what it is. Now, it's important to actually look at all of the ranges and pick golfers out of them. To me, I like to pick 2, usually out of each range. So, like, if I say I like DJ a lot, obviously he's the most expensive guy at 11.3. What I would do is go, 11.3, who can I pair him up with? Let's go with Victor Hovland at 8,700. Scroll down to this 20 to 40 range. Who do I like here? That's kind of a decent price. I almost want to make a lineup with Adam Scott, but I'm going to go with Carlos Ortiz. And then kind of scroll down a little bit. I see Abraham Answer there. I know his bucket score is bad. But let's just, for the sake of it, pick Abraham Answer. And I'm scrolling down to the 40 to 60 range, and I'm picking someone from here. I have no idea what my salary limits are. Uh-oh. Who else do we pick? Ortiz. So I'm at 35,700. If I were to play someone like Matsuya, no. How about Sam Burns? I could play someone in that's 6,900 or less. And really, it would be anyone in this range. Maybe we just go ahead and pick Peter Malnati. Why not? Actually, let's go with Matthew Neesmith. $50,000. I can certainly create lineups this way. Now, I have an optimizer that's going to look at all this stuff for me. I don't have to actually sit and eye out every single one. So thankfully, I don't have to do that. But that is one way to do it. And obviously, me scrolling through this, you guys could see what each of those, recent form averages are. Again, some of our best golfers in the field have the best recent form. It's going to be difficult to fade any of those golfers. Unfortunately, it doesn't help us narrow down those golfers. And sometimes this does. I mean, it does for me, like thinking of like a Brooks Koepka. Bad bucket score. I don't see him in this range. I don't even remember where he is. Again, I have the recent form averages up here. Brooks Koepka 57. It's a fun range that he falls in. We're going to see a golfer from that range somehow finish inside the top 10. Is it going to be Brooks? Will it be Bubba? Will it be Cam Smith? Those are who I'm comparing that, like Brooks to. I'm not comparing Brooks to any of the guys up here. That's not how I do it when it comes to my analysis and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, Brooks, like being a 5-1, I don't like it. So I'm probably not going to use him. I do want to conclude this video with looking at grass stats because it's going to matter. And had I known this at the AT&T Pebble Beach, I would have done it sooner. But if I were to go ahead and look at the field average, I've already calculated here 52.58. If I go less than 52.58, and just see what it spits out to me, it's going to take away a ton of golfers. I mean, I'm sitting with 59 golfers left in this field out of 120, nearly half. I mean, it's basically half, -1. But this is a way that I would probably start my lineups. I'd also probably not look at any of the last year 5s, which I see a ton of, and maybe start from here. But if I were to do that at the AT&T Pebble Beach, and then also take out all of those that are not ranked in the top 300, I think I got my pool down to 39. And with that, if I were to run the optimizer against those 39 golfers, I would have found the optimal lineup. So I'm wondering if that's going to work here. I might actually, do that and show you guys what it looks like in the optimizer tomorrow. But either way, we can look at our best POA golfers. I could probably just leave it here like this. But top to bottom, you guys can see it on the screen. Most notable golfers: Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, DJ, Cantlay, Hovland, Matsuyama, Finau, Kuchar, Schauffele. The cream of the crop is here. All of them have really good POA. I imagine that most of the best golf tournaments have, POA greens. I mean, like WGC Mexico had POA. This tournament always has POA. All the California golf courses typically have POA. A lot of high-end golf courses, like a high-end tournaments, have POA greens. So no surprise to see the best golfers with the best POA results. So I think we're going to see probably like 5 of these golfers finish inside the top 10. That's what we typically do, like what we typically see. If I were to go to 2020 and just sort out by overall POA, if I were to go ahead and put a filter on this, I'll hide all this information. It doesn't really matter. But if we were to go ahead and look at your top POA golfers and just see what it looks like with their finishes, of your top 20 guys, you can see all the prices over here. You have a Rory, a DJ, Rom, JT, Matsuyama. I mean, Adam Scott had the best POA and he won. You can see we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 top 20 finishes. JT missed the cut, so obviously you want to look at stuff like that. Morikawa finished 26th, Tony Finau 51st, Brooks Koepka 43rd, Cantlay 17th, not terrible, but not the best. Either way, although you saw the best, POA golfers, doesn't mean you want to select all 6 of your golfers from this lineup right here for anything in here. So I wouldn't do that. Don't pick the best POA golfers. Just select 3 to 4 of them, and then sprinkle in the rest somewhere else. But my rule of thumb actually is anyone who is better than 6% in top 10 POA percentage. And what I want to do going forward, once I actually have a database running, is do this for average finishing position of all time, so like going back to 2013. Because I guarantee you we're going to see something similar inside the top 10 of golfers who are, 6% or better. So really, everybody underneath 5.88, or really 6.38 and down, who are notable golfers here? We see Kokrak. Nobody really notable. Like a bunch of 6K golfers, 7K golfers. You guys can see who they are on the screen. I mean, Matthew Neesmith was one of those guys we chose. 0% top 10 POA percentages, meaning he's never had a top 10 finish on a POA golf course. Cam Davis, same thing. He has 19 events under his belt, not a single top 10. Harold Varner, one of the favorite golfers that a lot of people have this week, 0% top 10 finishes. I will be fading all these golfers. Abram Answer, 3.85%. Now, he's good enough that he could break that mold. I'm not banking on it. Sam Burns, Francesco Molinari. These are golfers I'm not going to put on my lineup. We can scroll up here. I mean, I would much rather have a Wesley Bryan just based off of this top 10 POA percentage than Harold Varner III. So if you guys want to bet me, reach out to me. I will definitely put a bet down on that. And it'll be top 10. It won't be who beats who. It's just who will top 10. If no one does, it'll be an empty bet. But either way, that's what I'm going to be looking at. I scrolled through these guys. Obviously, you can see who they are. But man, almost an hour. I mean, it's going to be an hour when I wrap this up. But yeah, I'll try to figure out ways to make this a little shorter. I didn't really intend for this to be this long, but here we are. Hopefully it was, insightful. Let me know how you like the structure. It's really difficult to talk about, all the buckets and stuff like that now that I think about it, and try to provide a summary on that. But I'll try to figure it out going forward. I appreciate you guys watching all the way to here. If you liked it, please leave a like. Thank you for watching. Comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the strategy video tomorrow. All right, bye.